Recently, Drew Gooden released a video with a very clear message. Greed is destroying the world, and the modern economy is operating in a way that leaves most people feeling trapped. In that video, Drew talks about the widening wealth gap, about the growing sense of unfairness as the cost of living rises while incomes fail to keep up, about how ordinary people find it increasingly difficult to buy a home, to build savings, or to imagine a stable future. He also talks about technology and AI and how they allow people who already own assets to move ahead faster, while those who rely solely on wages are pushed further and further behind. Together, all of this creates a feeling that is painfully familiar. Your daily life feels harder and more fragile, while the macroeconomic numbers seem to be telling a completely different story. Drew talks about inequality, about the feeling of being gaslit, about how technology and AI are making the rich richer while everyone else falls further back. He captures the mental state of a huge number of young people today, working harder, studying more, doing everything they were told to do, yet feeling like the finish line keeps moving further away the closer they get. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, all of this can start to feel like a legalized conspiracy. No one is openly trying to harm you. There's no single villain pulling the strings. But the outcome is always the same. A very small group rises extremely fast, while the majority remains stuck in a cycle that feels impossible to escape. I don't reject Drew's perspective. On the contrary, I think he has identified the core problem that so many people feel but struggle to articulate. And if you've watched his video, you probably recognize this feeling. It feels accurate. It feels validating. It even feels cathartic. But once it ends, you're left with the same question. What do you do next? That's why, in this video, I'm not here to argue with Drew about whether he's right or wrong. I want to continue exactly where he stops. If you truly want to understand why this system keeps operating the way it does, why this sense of unfairness repeats itself across cycles, and, most importantly, how not to stay trapped inside that loop, stay with me until the end. And if you want to come back and listen again to really absorb each layer of logic in this argument, hit the like button, not for me, but for your own clarity. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The system is forced to save the rich, not because the rich are better people, not because they deserve it more, but because if they are not saved, the entire economy collapses. The modern economy does not run on cash. It runs on debt and credit. And, structurally speaking, the wealthy are the creditors of the system. They own the banks. They hold the bonds. They control the equities, the corporations, and the core financial assets. They are the lenders, directly or indirectly, that allow the economy to function. If that group collapses all at once, what happens next? Banks lose capital. Banks stop lending. Credit freezes. Businesses can't borrow to operate. Layoffs begin. Bankruptcies spread. Unemployment explodes. At that point, the issue is no longer fairness or inequality. It's economic paralysis. That's why, in every major crisis, the top priority of central banks has never been social justice. It has always been preventing the financial system from breaking. History makes this painfully clear. In 2008, when the housing bubble and toxic debt pushed the global financial system to the edge of collapse, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates to near zero and injected trillions of dollars into the system through quantitative easing. Where did that money go first? Into banks, into financial institutions, into bond markets and stock markets. During that same period, millions of Americans lost their jobs, and millions of families lost their homes. The middle class was hit the hardest, losing income, losing housing equity, while still carrying debt. The people who were saved first were not workers, but the entities that form the backbone of the financial system, not because of morality, but because if that core failed, everything else would have followed. The same pattern repeated in 2020, only faster and on a larger scale. When the global economy shut down in a matter of weeks, central banks flooded the system with liquidity to prevent panic. Financial markets crashed violently and then recovered with remarkable speed. Meanwhile, the people who lost jobs were overwhelmingly service workers, low-income earners, and those without savings or assets to fall back on. Once again, the system was stabilized first, and society absorbed the consequences afterward. From the outside, this looks like blatant injustice. From the system's perspective, it was the only way to avoid total collapse. So, who exactly are the rich in this context? This isn't an emotional label, it's a structural one. They are the people who hold the majority of society's financial assets. When money is injected into the system, when interest rates fall, when liquidity floods the market, asset prices rise first. And when asset prices rise, those who already own assets benefit the most. This isn't personal bias, it's arithmetic. The outcome is determined by the distribution of ownership, not by ethics. This is also why technology and AI, as Drew points out, widen the wealth gap even further. Not because AI is evil, but because AI is an amplifier. It amplifies existing advantages. It makes labor cheaper, replaces many middle-income jobs, and dramatically increases the return on capital and assets. Most poor and working-class people primarily own one thing: their time and their labor. And those are exactly the things technology devalues the fastest. At the same time, AI requires massive infrastructure, data centers, electricity, water, and energy. The costs of that infrastructure are socialized through bills, prices, and public resources, while the profits are concentrated in a small group of corporations and shareholders. Technology doesn't create inequality. It magnifies the inequality that already exists. From this, a familiar cycle emerges and repeats itself. Debt expands and the economy grows. Debt becomes too large and a crisis hits. The system is forced to save the creditors. Money is injected. Asset prices rise. Asset owners move up. Wage earners absorb inflation and rising costs. This cycle isn't new. It has repeated itself for centuries, only wrapped in different narratives each time. So where is the way out? It isn't fighting the system because the system is larger than any individual. It isn't complaining because complaining doesn't change your position within that structure. And it isn't waiting for fairness because this system was never designed to be fair. It was designed to survive. The only real way out is to understand what the system is doing and position yourself on the same side as capital flows. In simple terms, swim with the sharks, not against the current. Understanding the system isn't abstract. It begins with understanding cycles. When money is tightening, when credit is scarce, when fear dominates, that isn't the time to gamble. It's the time to preserve capital, learn, and prepare. When a crisis hits and assets are being sold off in panic, that's when large pools of capital quietly begin accumulating, because those who understand cycles know that crises don't destroy money, they transfer it. When liquidity returns and asset prices rise, that's when you move with the wave, not watch from the sidelines. And when everyone is bragging about profits, when people believe this time is different, that's usually when the sharks start exiting quietly. Crises don't erase money, they redistribute it. They move it from the unprepared to the prepared, from forced sellers to those with liquidity. That's why the most important question isn't what should I invest in? It's where are we in the cycle? That question is the dividing line between being stuck and changing your economic class. Right now, what poor and aspiring investors need isn't a lucky bet or another promise of fast wealth. What they need is a shift in perspective. Stop asking what to buy before understanding the phase of the cycle. Stop believing that wages alone provide safety in a system built on debt and assets. Start observing when the system becomes strained, when credit tightens, when capital is forced to change direction. And most importantly, accept short-term discomfort in exchange for long-term positioning. If you want a deeper, structured understanding of economic cycles, why the wealthy are always saved first, and how large capital flows create the hidden waves that informed individuals can ride, I've explained this very clearly in another video on my channel focused entirely on economic cycles. That video exists to help you stop reacting emotionally to the economy and start seeing the map underneath it. I'll close with a simple but honest statement. The system doesn't hate you. It rewards those who understand it.